You're welcome back. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. I am Bolaji Akinwale. We've been talking about the Nigerian economy for the month of September. A report by the Financial Derivatives Company Limited talking about how the economy performed for the month. And we've been talking to Dr. Afolabi Oluwokere and Damilola Akimbami. Both are economists from the FDC. Thank you, gentlemen and gentlewomen, for still sticking around on the show. I would like us to go to the issue of our exchange rates, because we know that that's a very key area that determines a lot of things in the economy, whether you're borrowing from the international market, you're auctioning your bonds, or you're borrowing loans as well, and buying goods and services. Let's take a look at how Nigeria performed in terms of the exchange rate value with other currencies from Kenya, Angola, South Africa, and Ghana. If you look at the table before me, sorry we couldn't have it on the screen, but let's take a look how we did. First of all, our interest rate was at 12%. It's still at 12%, not changed yet. For Kenya, it's at 8.50%. Angola, 8.75%. Angola is still making headlines in terms of the fact that its oil production capacity has been helping the economy to grow and expand. South Africa, 7.75%, and we have Ghana, 19%. We've seen issues with the Ghanaian economy anyway. It's been having challenges of late, and it's gone to the IMF to see how it can help it salvage the situation. Now let's take a look at our exchange rate performance. Nigeria, we had the currency year to date 2.15%, Kenya 3.34%. But in all, what sense can you make of these figures in terms of how our exchange rate has been, Damilola?
Yes, our exchange rate actually has performed well compared to its peers. All the countries that you've mentioned so far, Kenya, Angola, South Africa, Ghana, and Nigeria, these countries, their currencies have all depreciated year to date. But Nigeria's, the amount that Naira has depreciated is significantly low compared to the others. You mentioned Ghana. If you look at Ghana, the CD has depreciated by about 35%. It's actually the worst performing currency in Africa right now. So the Nigerian story is not bad news. It's relatively good compared to the others. But with this issue of oil price, it's going to be something that we need to consider, because Nigeria gets a significant amount of its forex receipts from oil proceeds and all that. And if this decline, obviously it will affect our forex receipts, and there'll be pressure on the currency. So in the short term or near term, we expect to see increased pressure because of the impact of the oil prices. But in terms of comparing with our peers, we still have relatively some room to maneuver. And if you look at our benchmark interest rate, it's been at 12% for quite a while, since October 2011. And the CBN has done a good job in maintaining or trying to maintain price stability and exchange rate stability. He has kept that band within, he has kept the interest rate within that 12% band. He has kept the CRL, it will increase a couple of times, but it's now at 15% and 12%. So the CBN is carrying out significant adjustments just to ensure that the exchange rate is at that point. But if our reserves decline, which is possible because of the oil price issue, we're going to see a lot of pressure on the currency. And the CBN would have to decide, am I going to preserve my reserves, or am I going to protect my currency? If I'm going to preserve my reserves, then the currency might have to depreciate further. If I'm going to preserve my currency, it's at the detriment of the reserves. So that's something that the CBN, I'm sure they're going to start, they're going to have to start considering.
Okay, Dr. Oluwokere, let me hear your own take.
Just as she said, these three variables are sometimes called unholy trinity. You have the interest rates, you have exchange rates, and you have inflation. Most times it's very difficult to manipulate the three at the same time. If you want to do, then you have to survive in some aspect of your economy. For instance, we are maintaining a stable price level. We are also having exchange rates maintained at a particular level. Then interest rate also around 12%. Then something must be suffering, and that's going to be our external reserve. And oil price will then pose more threat to that external reserve, and something has to be done. Is it about the exchange rate, or something has to be done about the currency in terms of its value relative to dollar, for instance?
Now, let's go forward in terms of the issue of inflation. Inflation, we've seen that at 8.5% in Nigeria. And, for a lot of business people in Nigeria, they are of the view that we need to get more lending, more monies from the banks to be able to finance our businesses so that we can grow the economy and contribute our own quota. But relatively, how do you look at our inflation rate, Damilola?
Well, our inflation rate, at least as an August figure, the CBN put it, or the NBS put it at 8.5%. It's still within the CBN's band of 6 to 9%. And if we compare with other African countries, it's still relatively okay, in quote. But in the period that we're in right now, with a lot of spending going on because of election, with the oil price issue and all that, there are going to be threats to inflation. But this month, we're actually forecasting a slight moderation in inflation rate for the month of September. The figures that are going to be released in a couple of days, we're actually forecasting a moderation in inflation.
Why would there be a moderation?
Well, we're looking at, we carried out our regression analysis and all that, and the factors that we looked at, we realized that there was an increase in our food index, and that's because there's been increase in supply of food products, and that's because of the harvest season. And also, if you look at our imported inflation, that has declined a little bit. Our import bill has declined a little bit, and that's because commodity prices, not only oil, have reduced. And since we import a lot of these commodities, that has also impacted positively on our import bill, and so we hope to see a moderation in inflation.
Okay, Doctor, let me come to you. Let's do some kind of projections here. Damilola has talked about the fact that the inflation rates that will be released in a couple of days may drop marginally, but it's something good for Nigeria. Let's take a look at that, the short-term impacts of a reduced inflation rate, whether short, medium, or long-term. Are we going to see that sustained? If this figure that will be released could be reduced, do you think that we would keep it at that level?
Not really, because what we currently have is a decline in prices of import and also increase in the harvest of some product or some agricultural produce. Whether that will be sustained or not is questionable, because if you look at elections spending, if you look at spending on insurgency, if you look at some of the things that are still likely to happen, and we may say it's not likely that we are able to sustain that for some time. So there will still be a lot of pressure on our prices, and something has to be done about that.
No, I know that we're expecting some maturing bonds from AMCON, and that may increase money supply in the economy. We saw what happened when it was trying to release some bulky amounts of money, I think towards the end of last year, and there were a lot of projections as to the fact that that may, deep in the money market rates. But right now, we're expecting AMCON to, release some monies into the economy from the maturing bonds. Okay, when it's something, do you think that that would impact on inflation?
Not really.
Okay.
Because the CBN will be ready for that. I mean,
with its own bills, we are seeing having the OMO bills. And it could also use its monetary policy instrument as well to check excess liquidity in the economy.
That's not
okay, so we shouldn't expect much from AMCON?
No, we shouldn't expect that much from that. We should expect more from political spending, from spending on insurgency, rather than from AMCON.
Okay, so the economy should be ready to be able to absorb a lot of spending. I think we're used to spending somehow. Well, we need to spend to grow the economy as well, whether it's one of the ways to, whether it's for the elections. A lot of things go into it, and so spending is actually allowed and all of that. At this point, I'd like to thank you for coming on Business Morning. That'll be all we can take from you. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much, Damilola Akinbami and Dr. Afolabi Olowokere, economist from the Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us.
And that'll be all we can bring your way on Business Morning. Thank you so much for also watching the program. Thank you for your time. I am Bolaji Akinwale.